declarations of, apologies. Apologies for Kath Price and Councillor King will be a little late. Okay, everybody else is here. Are there any declarations of interest on items on the agenda which are not already recorded on the council website? No? Right. Minutes of the meeting on the 21st of January. Is everybody happy with those? Yes? Right. We'll sign those afterwards, Kelly. Public consultation. We've got Keith Conticourt speaking on items 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. I haven't been notified of any other public speakers. So we'll move on to the first main item on the agenda, which is the Utility Management Solution and Energy Administrative Service Provider Concession Contract. I'll hand over to Chris Hawkins for this.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll be moving the recommendations as set out in the report. This will save us some time in the housing department, and it will be much slimmer and more effective service. I'm willing to take any questions on it. Thank you.
Yeah. Do I have a seconder for that? Yeah, well, Tony Benson. And so that's moved and seconded. I haven't got to public speaker down for this one. So it's just going to. If you're not public, Michelle.
I know.
Be a councillor here. Right?
She's too keen.
So my next question was: are there any non-cabinet member speakers? And the answer is yes. Over to you. Right.
Thank you. Yeah, there was just one thing I wanted to. Right, I have no problem with sort of outsourcing this bit in effect because, I mean, I know from personal experience, hanging on for utilities and what have you to get through to anyone takes up ridiculous amounts of time and things. I was just sort of wanted a bit of clarification because at 3.3 it says there are specialist organisations that provide utility services free of charge to the council. Now, where do the charges then come in? Because they won't be doing it out of the goodness of their heart and they'll need to be making some money somewhere. So who ends up paying for it? Thank you.
If I can, Chair, I think I can help. Sorry. I'll look at the Chair before I apologise. So to answer that question, so because it's a concession contract, the operator is at risk of the market, so they would recoup their costs from tenants that wish to utilise that service and to take that up. And as a result of that, there's no charge to the council because the risk is entirely within their remit to take on and to fulfil. So that's the purpose of it being a concession contract. It's at their risk, there's no cost to the council. They will recoup their cost via tenants that wish to operate and take forward that service if they wish to do so. And I must say there's no guarantee for tenants to take it on. It's entirely their choice if they wish to do so. So that's how they would remunerate themselves as an organisation. That's formed part of the contract and the procurement process. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, it's been nobody else. It's been moved and seconded. So can we have a vote on that, please? All in favour? Okay, that's passed. So let's move on then to item 7, food waste service. Councillor Price is still at work, works during the day, so she can't be here. So I'm going to move the recommendations in section 2 of the report. I will be making a comment on this at the council meeting because I'm not completely convinced that we've got the right funding for this in future years. I think we're right in the first period of time in future years, but I'll be making that comment more thoroughly at the council meeting. So I've moved the recommendations in section 2. Is that seconded? Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Watkins. So public speakers, then Councillor Conticourt.
Thank you, Chair. I have very mixed feelings about food waste collections. I started 20 years ago at this council coming to talk about waste strategies, and for 20 years we've been trying to get greener and more. Sorry? Is it crackly? Yeah, for 20 years I've been trying to get Warwickshire Waste Strategy right, and collecting food is very, very expensive and very petrol or diesel hungry. So I really don't like food waste. It's an anathema to actually buy more food or have more food than you need. So we need to really educate down the amount of food people buy, buying with shopping lists, doing a lot to reduce the problem in the first place. And I know that people like me and Michelle who do a lot of composting, etc., really we won't use the service. So why are we getting given another caddy, etc.? And at the other end of the spectrum, you've got people who are very poor recyclers who are very hard to educate to use a service. So it's the people in the middle that will be the people using it. And the places where it's been more successful is where they've gone down to 3 weekly bin collections, because then actually you start reducing the amount of bin capacity people have for residual waste, then they're more likely to put stuff in the food waste collections. But it's a real difficult one to square up the energy cost of collecting it all and the cost, unless you do it as part of less residual collections or do more food waste. So I think the reform budget at county expects us to go 3 weekly bin collections in the next couple of years. That's the way the south of the county goes. They have a 3 weekly system, and that's part of the trade-off of doing food waste collections. You then only have inert matter in your residual bin. So I think we do need to start looking at where we go and really do lots of education, because spending £1 million plus on a system and then not actually encouraging people to use it right and get all the good stuff working. And one final thing, Preston did one of the early trials of food waste collections probably about 20 years ago, and they found by having a food waste collection people wasted less food. They did all the calculations, all the trials, they took people's bins and measured how much food waste was in, and then they gave them a food waste collection caddy, and because people saw them putting the excess potatoes, rice, cheese, whatever in the food waste collection caddy, it did actually reduce how much food they wasted. So it's complicated.
Thank you, Councillor Keith Contercourt. Anybody want to ask any points of clarification on this? No? Councillor Michelle Contercourt, do you want to speak?
I don't think there's anything to add, really.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to accept recommendations in section 2 of the report. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Now, the next item is obviously a key item. It's the item 8 is the item 8 is the general fund revenue budget. Now, I'm going to be speaking extensively on this item, as I no doubt other people will be, at the council meeting. I think the purpose of this item is for us to make a recommendation. Effectively, the same report then is going to the council meeting. So on this one, I'm simply going to move the recommendations in section 2 of the report. There's a lot to go through there, and I'll be going through all of it at the council meeting. Now, a second for that, please. Councillor Watkins, and a public speaker, Councillor Keith Contercourt.
Yeah, like you, I can put in to speak about this later, but I have to do that in advance, and it's very scripted, and I'm far more of a free talk, if you like. But I do want to say there's a lot of things that are a lot better in the budgets coming forward nowadays than they used to be. And I realise the really difficult position you're in because of governments keep continuously changing the situation, so it's almost impossible to set the budget. I know because I was there for umpteen hours at the county. A couple of things I did want to pick up, and I will talk about later as well, is HMOs has been one of the key things, and I know we've got the lowest HMO charges in the borough, and I know that the licence charges in the county, I know the charges then are used for the licensing and inspections, etc. So I will point out the charges were a lot higher in Rugby and all the other places, and I think we should be charging a lot more, considerably more. And we had a housing scrutiny meeting a month or so ago when one of the operators of HMOs said, please charge us more so we can actually have effectively get rid of the worst operators and have a higher quality system. So I think that's what we need to do. I don't think it changes your budget per se, because if you change the charges from £900 to £1,600, all that money effectively goes into better enforcement and regulation. But I think in terms of the tenants themselves and the people living nearby them, I think better regulation would really help. So that's one thing. The second thing is about parking. We've really got a serious problem with all the Vicarage Street regeneration and no one thinking about where all the parking is going to go. So I will be asking we look at parking and parking charge, particularly long season tickets. Yeah, we have a choice to actually charge more for season tickets. Hello, Chair. We can charge more for season tickets in the areas that will be the east end of town, effectively, where the development will be, and effectively encourage people who work in town to park, Harefield Road or whatever. So I think we're a bit more being smarter on parking, particularly with the crisis of not having enough parking spaces when Vicarage Street comes. And the final shocking thing is we charge £400 for our fixed penalty notices to fly tippers. The other councils are doing £600 to £1,000 fixed penalty notices. And if we're the cheapest place to fly tip, if you get caught, we will get more people fly tipping here. Coventry's FPN to fly tipping are £1,000. A lot of the South Warwickshire ones are £1,000. North Warwickshire is £600. Yeah, having £400 fixed penalty notices is not helping us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, County Councillor Condecourt. Any points of clarification anybody wants to make or ask? Thank you. Then I'll move on. Councillor Michelle Condecourt, you want to say anything?
I'll wait till later.
Thank you. We'll just say, Councillor Keith Condecourt, obviously as part of our budget we are putting money in for looking at a selective licensing services. It should be just about what we charge for the current HMOs, is whether we have what HMOs we charge for, and I want to be charging for all of them so we know what they all are, so we're on that. And the other items, the car parking we picked up when we reviewed the car parking strategy, so we're not blind to these items. It's been moved and seconded, so are we all in agreement on that item? Yes. I'll take that to council now. Item 9, housing revenue account budget. Again, this is going to council from here, so I'll ask Councillor Watkins to introduce that.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it gives me great pleasure again to be putting forward this recommendations at section 2 for the HRA. So I'll be putting this forward both here and later on tonight, and I'm happy to take any questions on the report that's in front of you.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Have I got a second for that? Councillor Hughes. Thank you. So that's been moved. So, Councillor Condecourt.
I'm really annoyed by prices keep going up by more than inflation. So the 4.8% rise in council tax rents is something we really should be looking at trying to pare down, even if it's only by a fraction of a percent. We really have people not having wages or pensions going up very fast. In this report it actually says it assumes our pay rise is 3.5%. So if you work for the council and live in a council house, your pay goes up 3.5%, but your rent goes up 4.8%. So I really hope this council looks more strongly, particularly next year maybe, at keeping those rent rises lower. And with local government reorganisation, who knows where our housing stock is going to be, but if we start with high rents and transfer it to whatever the new authority is going to be, then they can hike it from that point further. So I really hope that next year you'll look at as close to RPI as possible and actually try and take 1% off. Yeah, I understand some people get their council tax rent paid for various schemes, etc. But a lot of people still have to pay, particularly the working poor, and they tend to be on very low wages. And at garages, I always, from my time with the councillor here, people keep asking for garages. Garages are a thing we always forget, and garages haven't gone up in the rent rises. So effectively you pay more to live, but actually the rent for the garage stayed the same. Yeah, I just think that maybe we could have added a few pounds to garages and actually try and rent a few more garages out and actually taking a bit off the actual rents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keith Condicourt. Anybody want to ask any points of clarification of Councillor Condicourt? Okay. So we'll move on there to. You want to speak, Michelle, on this? No. Right. So on that basis, then it's been moved and seconded. Are we in agreement with the recommendations in the report? Thank you. Again, the next item, item 10, the capital budget, that covers both the general revenue fund and the housing fund, is going to council again. So at this stage, I'm just proposing to simply move the recommendations in the report. Do I have a seconder for that? 3 there, that's Councillor Benson on that one. And we've got public speaker, County Councillor Keith Condicourt.
The first thing that really annoys me is we haven't got the Grayson Place expenditure in this report on capital expenditure. It's all, I assume it's all wrapped up into the general fund stuff, but yeah, we haven't finished Grayson Place. There's obviously still some bits left, and it'd be really nice if for Grayson Place we actually had phase 1, this is the cost, phase 2, this is the cost, residual bits still to do, this is what we need to spend. Because I know it's been an almighty disaster that you didn't start and you're now left with the dregs, but I do think we need more honesty over how much it's cost and how much more there is to spend on it. I note we've got the report for next week's Cabinet mentioning there's drainage issues on Grayson Place that need sorting. I complained about the drainage cutbacks when the Grayson Place was scaled back. It was going to have rain gardens and all sorts of drainage features which were taken out of the design, and it looks like taking them out was a bad idea. I'm also appalled at the capital expenditure that the Physical Activity Centre is going to overrun its £30.6 million. We really needed to have learned lessons from the Physical Activity Centre, because that effectively bankrupts our Section 106 monies, our borrowings, for providing leisure centres or sport hall or whatever onto Top Farm. So you're building across the borough, but so much money has gone into the better physical activity centre. As wonderful as it is, yeah, we should have learned some lessons, and there's things we need to look back at that and say, why did we spend so much, particularly designing it twice? That cost us a lot of money and a lot of time. It's probably £1 million wasted. And I've had an argument with Mr. Hollis the last few days because they weren't going to put the cycle racks in. I mean, how can we build a leisure centre and not put the cycle racks in until the old leisure centre's knocked down and the car park's done? And you need your cycle racks in when the leisure centre opens. This is 101. Yeah, it's this basic stuff we're not getting right with our capital projects. And I say, it's not hindsight. We've been moaning about this for ages. We moaned about the drainage on Grayson Place, because I know how much that bit of Queen's Road floods. And cycle racks, me and Michelle have been site visits and keep asking, where are the cycle racks? When are they going to be for the physical activity centres? So I'm really, really annoyed that we've had to bully and cajole and hassle you, not you personally, but the council, to actually get cycle racks put in when the leisure centre opens. And the latest thing is now they're being put in as an emergency for the 23rd of March. So it's going to be 2 weeks after you opened it that you'll finally get the cycle racks in. And they'll only be there because we've hassled. And that shouldn't be the way it happens. It was a planning condition. You just ignore them. And your capital projects need to comply with planning conditions, because then we can't tell other people to comply with them if we don't do it ourselves.
Thank you for that, Councillor Constable. Do you want to raise any points of clarity on that? No? Okay, yep. Councillor Hawkins.
I just want to point out and ask County Councillor Condicourt if he's aware that it's Warwickshire County Council that's actually responsible for health, and if he acknowledges the amount of money that we as a borough council are actually spending to improve the health of our residents. Perhaps if County Council had put some money in the budget or if they haven't spent so long doing the budget, we would rather a little bit more off Warwickshire County Council, who are responsible for not only the transport, the cycle lanes, the active travel and the health of our residents. Thank you.
Chair?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, we've got a health centre not being built on Top Farm. So,
Councillor Condicle, you've had your 3 minutes. Thank you. Right. Michelle, do you want to say anything on this?
I'll wait
Okay,
till
thank
later.
you. So it's been moved and seconded. Are we all in agreement with that? Thank you, that's approved.
what's the next one?
Right. The next one, right, local council tax support scheme. Again, it's yet another item actually going to go to the
That might be.
council and to the council later. The important thing about this particular item on this one is that as this and several of the other items that follow are there because the government changes regulations each year and we simply have to pass these things to make sure we're in line with government regulations. However, on this one, although the purpose of this report is to bring us in line with the way the government's changed the regulations for next year, in paragraph 3.4 we are instituting a complete review of this because it hasn't been reviewed fully for years. So it isn't going to be just, oh well, we'll just agree that the regulations of the government have changed. We are, over the next year, going to thoroughly review this, and that, of course, has been reported previously. I want that review to be bottom-up, very thorough. So I'm going to move the recommendations in section 2 of the report. I have a seconder, Councillor Benson, thank you, and Councillor Keith Condicle.
So for the final time this afternoon, local council tax support is really vital. It helps a lot of people on both pensioners and the working poor to actually able to pay the council tax or part of the council tax. And for years I argued for a better scheme for the borough in the days of Dennis Harvey. I kept coming every year to budget and councils and things and saying the local, because it was the percentage you got was set by this council. You had a local policy for each of the councils, but it was paid for out of the council tax collection fund. So effectively, if we had a more generous scheme, effectively Warwickshire County Council bit paid for most of it, and we paid for part of it. So it effectively cost us 13p to give basically £1 relief, if you work it out. And some of the councils had a more generous scheme than we did. So it's really important, but also it is now a lot of money around Warwickshire. So we do need to make sure it's being done well and there is no fraud or people misclaiming this support. And one of the problems, and we've got it at county, because they had a massive underestimate of the council tax base, because this comes off the council tax base. So all the money collected for the whole of Warwickshire loses out on discount for local council tax support, etc. So if the scheme is not working right, the county council and ourselves and everyone gets, because we set the scheme, but the county gets most of the benefit. This is where they should be giving us some money to actually do some monitoring and getting the system working right and some joint working.
Thank you, County Councillor Condicle. Any other non-cabinet member wish to speak on this? No, so it's been, sorry, were there any points of clarification that we need to make to Councillor Condicle? No, it's been moved and seconded then. All in favour? Thank you. So, the next item is, not the same thing, but it's similar to the previous item. It's going to council, and this really is to bring everything into line with the regulations. And again, I'm sure, we all agree that we have to have the right schemes in place to help people who are, can't always help themselves. So I'm fully in agreement with it. So I'm going to move the recommendations in section 2 of the report. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Hughes, thank you. And Councillor Keith Condicle.
No, I think I've finished now. 7 to 11 I was doing.
Right, okay. 7 to... Well, this is item 11.
12.
12?
Okay, that's all right. So, it's been moved and seconded. All in agreement? Yeah. Again, item 12 is bringing our
That's 11. That's support.
completely right. So item 13, apologies, council tax policy, again, is to bring everything in line with regulations and make sure we're, can fall foul of anything. So I'm going to move the recommendations in section 2 of that report. Is there a seconder? Councillor King. Any non-cabinet members who wish to speak? No. So in that case, it's been moved and seconded. It'll be in agreement. Thank you. And finally, in terms of the main items, of course, we've got recommendations from the OSP, the business rate discretionary relief policy, again, to bring that in line with the latest regulations. So I'm going to move the recommendations in section 2 of that report. Our seconder, Councillor Watkins. We have no speakers. Any non-cabinet member wish to speak? No, in that case, been moved and seconded. I'm in agreement with that. Thank you. Right, I'm moving then on to recommendations from OSPs. So the first recommendation is from the Housing and Communities OSP, and it's meeting on the 22nd of January 2026. The panel actioned the motion regarding the placement of asylum seekers in the borough that was agreed at full council on the 16th of September 2025. The following recommendation is being put forward for Cabinet consideration. And the recommendation is it be recommended to Cabinet to examine the possibility of giving access to the passport to leisure scheme for asylum seekers. Now, I know the portfolio holders have been looking at this. Would you just like to say where we are with that, Councillor Hughes?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so we're actually engaging with the communities team with how best to support this moving forward. Thank you.
So we've got a recommendation here. So would you move that we actually then continue to engage with the right bodies and things, and I will second it as well, put it through. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. No, so it is. We are engaging with it. So I'll move that, please.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'll second that. Okay, everybody in favour of that? Thank you. What about Matt after me coming off, but not doing it properly. Right. The second recommendation of the OSP is Business Regeneration and Planning OSP. Now, at its meeting on the 29th of January 2026, the panel considered a motion referred from full council on the 10th of December regarding the Abbey Theatre and Eton Arts CIO and put forward the following recommendation for Cabinet consideration. It be recommended to Cabinet that the portfolio holder for leisure and health or a substitute take up the second available seat on the Board of Trustees for the Eton Arts CIO alongside Councillor Markham. Now, the situation here, of course, is we're still in negotiation with them over the lease. That is getting there, but I'm going to recommend the Chair that we defer this decision on this until the AGM when various appointments and things are made all in the round. So I'm going to propose that to the seconder. Views? Everybody in favour of that? Approved. Thank you. Next recommendation from OSP, Health and Corporate Resources OSP 12th of February 2026, Equalities Policy. At its meeting held on the 12th of February, the OSP considered a report on the reviewed Equalities Policy and put forward the following recommendation for Cabinet consideration. It be recommended to Cabinet the revised Equality Policy be approved and adopted. I'm very happy to propose that. Got a seconder? Councillor Benson. And proposed and seconded, all agreed? Thank you. And then finally, the Health and Corporate Resources OSP, again on the 12th of February, at its meeting held on the 12th of February, the OSP considered a report on the People Strategy 2026 to 2029 and put forward the following recommendation for Cabinet consideration. It be recommended to Cabinet that the People Strategy 2026 to 2029 be approved and adopted. And again, this is something I'm very keen on and been involved with, so I am formally putting that forward as a proposal that the People Strategy be approved and adopted. Is that seconded? Councillor Hughes. been moved and seconded. All in favour? Thank you. And I have no other items, so thank you very much for your contributions to the meeting, your attendance, and I declare the meeting closed.